In the name of Allah, who is the most beneficent and most merciful. My name is Arij Fatma and I am from BS Chemistry Department. Today I am going to present the first project SQL. What is SQL? SQL is a standard language for accessing and manipulating databases. Now move towards contents. First we see what is SQL, what can SQL do, what is database, courses and certifications. What is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It lets you access and manipulate databases. It became a standard of the American National Standards Institute in 1986 and of International Organization for Standardization in 1987. What can SQL do? SQL can execute queries against database. It can insert records in a database. It can retrieve data from database and it can create new databases. It can create new tables in a database, create stored procedures in a database and create views in a database. It can delete records from a database. Now, what is database? A database is an organized collection of structured information or data typically stored electronically in a computer system. Basically, it is usually controlled by a database management system DBMS. For example, an online telephone directory which uses a database to store data of people, phone numbers and other contact details. Next, courses. These courses we learn from this presentation. Introduction to SQL, joining data in SQL, intermediate SQL, introduction to SQL Server, and fifth one is introduction to relational database in SQL. First is introduction to SQL. In Introduction to SQL, there are 4 chapters, which are selecting columns, filtering rows, aggregate functions, and sorting and grouping. First is selecting column. In this chapter, which provides a brief introduction to working with relational databases, and in which we learn about their structure, how to talk about them using database language, and how to begin an analysis using simple SQL commands to select and summarize columns from database tables. Now, here are the contents of selecting columns. In this chapter, there are multiple things we learn. Selecting single column, select multiple columns, select all columns, select distinct count. So first talk about select single column. In SQL you can select data from table using select statement. For example, in the first picture you can see the following query selects the name column from the people table. So select name and from table. In this query, select and from are called keywords. In SQL, keywords are not case sensitive, which means you can write the same query as select name from people. We can use capital letters and small letters. So select multiple columns. In the real world, you will often want to select multiple columns. For example, this query selects 2 columns, name and birth date from people table. So in the query, select name, comma, birth date from people. Select all columns. Sometimes you may want to select all columns from table. So by typing every column name would be a pain. So there's a handy shortcut. For example, select asterisk sign from people. Asterisk sign shows select all columns from a table. Next is limit keywords. We can limit keywords. If you only want to return a certain number of results, you can use the limit keyword to limit the number of rows returned. Select static from people. If we want to limit 10, then for example, limit 10. Select distinct. Often your results will include many duplicate values. If you want to select all the unique values from columns, you can use the distinct keyword. For example, select distinct language from films. Next is count. The count function, you do this by returning the number of rows in one or more columns. For example, this code gives the number of rows in the people table. Select count into static from people. Filtering rows. It is the second chapter of Introduction to SQL. This chapter builds on first by teaching you how to filter tables for rows which satisfy some criteria of interest, in which we learn how to use basic comparison operators, combine multiple criteria, match patterns in text, and much more. So this chapter includes filtering results, simple filtering of numeric values, simple filtering of text, where and use, where and or, between, where in, null and is null, like and not like. So first is filtering results. In SQL, the where keyword allows you to filter based on both text and numeric values in a table. So there are a few different comparison operators you can use: equal, not equal, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. For example, you can filter text records such as title. The following code returns all films with the title Metropolis. Select title from films where title is equal to Metropolis. Or another example is select title from films where release area is greater than 2000. Simple filtering of numeric values. For example, the following query selects all details for films with budget over $10,000. So here is the numeric value is $10,000. For example, select static from films where budget is greater than 10,000. Simple filtering of text. So the where clause can also be used to filter text results such as names or countries. For example, this query gets the titles of all films which were filmed in China. Select title from films where country is equal to China and China is in comma. Where and. Use of where and. Often you will want to select data based on multiple conditions, so you can build up your data by using where and keyword. For example, select data from films where release year is greater than 1994 and release year is less than 2000, which means that the film's release year is in between 1994 and 2000. So in the next example, select title from films where release year is greater than 1994 and less than 2000. We can write this in both ways, where and or. For example, the following returns all films released in either 1994 or 2000. Select title from films where release year is equal to 1994 or release year is equal to 2000. When combining and or, be sure to enclose the individual clauses in parentheses like so. Select title from films where release year is equal to 1994 or release year is equal to 1995 and certification is equal to PG or certification is equal to R. Between, for example, select title from films where release year is greater than equal to 1994 and release year is less than equal to 2000, which means that title of all films released in and between 1994 and 2000. Use of where in. If you want to filter based on many conditions, where can get unwidely. For example, select name from kids where age is equal to 2 or age is equal to 4, age is equal to 6 or age is equal to 8 or age is equal to 10. We can also write it as select name from kids where age in into 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We can write in both ways by entering the in. Null and is not null. In SQL, for example, to count the number of missing birthdays in the people table, select count static from people where birth date is null. For example, in the other example, which is of is not null. For example, this query gives the names of all people whose birthdays are not missing in the people table. So select name from people where birth date is not null. Like and not like. In SQL, the like operator can be used in a where clause to search for a pattern in a column. So, for example, select name from companies where name like data percent in comma form. The wildcard will match a single character. For example, the following query matches companies like Datacam, Datacom, and so on. Select name from companies where name like data c underscore mp. You can also use the not like operator to find records that do not match the pattern you specify. Third chapter is aggregate function. This chapter teaches us how to use aggregate functions to summarize data and gain useful insights. So in this chapter we will also learn about arithmetic in SQL and how to use analysis to make your results more readable. So this chapter includes aggregate functions, combining aggregate functions with where clause, and note on arithmetic. It's as simple as aliasing, even more aliasing. So first is aggregate functions. And we will want to perform some calculation on the data in database. So SQL provides a few functions which is called aggregate functions which help us out with this. For example, select average budget from films, and in the next example select max budget from films. Max means maximum and avg means average. The sum function returns the results of adding up the numeric values in a column. So select sum into budget from films. We can simply replace average with max, max with sum. By using these aggregate functions, results we can perform functions combining aggregate functions with where clause. Aggregate functions can be combined with where clause to gain further insights from your data. For example, to get total budget of movies made in the year 2010 or later. For example, select sum into budget from films where release year is greater than equal to 2010. A note on arithmetic. In addition to use aggregate functions, you can perform basic arithmetic with symbols like plus, minus, multiplication and division. So for example, asterisk sign is used for multiplication and slash sign is used for division. So for example, this gives a result of 12. Select 4 asterisk 3. By multiplying these two numbers, we can multiply or gives the result of 12. However, the following gives the result of 1. For example, 4 slash 3 slash signs can also be used as minus. Next is it's as simple as aliasing. You may have noticed in the first exercise of this chapter that the column name of your result was just the name of the function you used. For example, select max budget from films. It gives you a result with one column named max. But what if you use two functions like this? So we can write it as select max into budget, comma max duration from films. And in the above example, we could use aliases to make the result clear. So, for example, select max into budget as max budget, max duration as max duration. For from films, aliases are also helpful for making results more readable. Even more aliases. SQL assumes that if you divide an integer by an integer, you want to get an integer back. So this means that the following will erroneously result in 400.0. Select 45 slash 10 asterisk 100. In the last chapter of this course, which is sorting and grouping, it provides a brief introduction to sorting and grouping your results. This chapter includes order by, selecting single columns, selecting multiple columns, group by, and having. So, first of all, we see order by clause. By default, order by will sort in ascending order. If you want to sort the results in descending order, you can use this. For example, select title from films, order by release year, desks. Gives you the title of film sorted by release year from newest to oldest. Sorting single columns. To order results in descending order, you can put the keyword des after your order by. For example, to get all the names in the people table in reverse alphabetic order, select name from people, order by name, des. It gives us the descending order. Sorting multiple columns. Order by can also be used to sort on multiple columns. For example, select birth date, comma name from people, order by birth date and name. There are two columns, birth date and name column. Next is group by. Now practice your new skills by combining group by and order by with some more aggregate functions. For example, get the release year and lowest gross earnings per release year. So select release year, comma min gross. Min means minimum from films group by release year. Next is having. In SQL, aggregate functions can't be used in where clause. So for example, the following query is invalid. Select release year from films group by release year where count into title greater than 10. This means that if you want to filter based on the result of an aggregate functions, you can also need another way. That's where the having clause comes in. For example, select release year from films group by release year having count title greater than 10. We simply replace where with having. Shows only those years in which more than 10 films were released. And this is the certificate which I gain on accomplishment of this course. That's all from my side. Thank you.